hoping. We'll go ahead and start with an opening by Councilmember Mark Hurd.
Thank you, Chairwoman Goodlander. Real quick, thought I'd open with a quote from John Adams. It just popped away. I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up, but it is one of my favorites. It's a good reminder. He says, "Let us dare to read, think, speak, and write." Oh. There are two types of education. One should teach us how to make a living, the other how to live. I'd also like to include a prayer in my remarks. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be able to assemble here this evening to conduct the business of Cache County Council and to participate in the governance of our community and the system that we enjoy here. We're grateful, Father, for the means that Thou hast blessed us with and bestowed upon us as a community, that we might enjoy so many great things. But we recognize that there are many who are in need of Thy comfort and of our helping hands. And we pray for guidance from Thee, that we might be in tune to know and understand how we can help one another. We also pray for guidance to execute government's function in its proper role. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Also, please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Before we get to the agenda, I just want to excuse Councilwoman Goodlander, It's Councilwoman Buse, who is traveling, and also our executive and deputy executive are both out of town. So we're on our own tonight. We're just going to do it. Has anyone had a chance to look at the agenda and would make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Madam Chair, it looks
Yes.
like I need to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Okay.
We need to strike item 8A, Resolution 2025-12, amending the Cache County Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual 1.1 from the agenda, and strike 7B, the CS rezone. And the reasoning, the policy may need further revision, and it would be best to bring it up at a later meeting once it's reviewed further for the personnel policy, and the rezone was withdrawn.
Was withdrawn? Okay. Thank you. Okay, do you want to make that motion with that amendment?
Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, what about the minutes from our last meeting?
I would move to approve the minutes. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, our executive is not here, so we have no report on that. So our first item of special interest is CAPSA. Jill, glad you're here early. Yes, please. And go ahead and state your name so that everyone knows for the record.
Thank you. I'm here. I'm Jill Anderson. I'm the CEO of CAPSA. We're the local domestic violence and rape crisis center serving this area. And we appreciate you inviting us tonight to highlight April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Last year, CAPSA served 2,429 individuals, with more than 30% of those as individuals experiencing sexual violence. We know that supporting survivors of sexual assault is about advocacy, healing, and breaking down the immense barriers survivors face. Think for just a minute about barriers you have seen or assume that survivors of sexual violence face. Too often, barriers such as shame, fear, lack of resources, and societal stigma keep survivors from reaching out for help. At CAPSA, we ensure survivors have access to confidential support, legal advocacy, and trauma-informed care. And most importantly, we don't do this work alone. Through education, outreach, and partnerships with healthcare providers, law enforcement, local businesses, government leaders, and all of you, we strengthen the networks that both prevent violence and support survivors towards healing. But we need the community, and we need each of you. Businesses, educators, civic leaders, each of us has a role to play in shifting cultural perceptions, fostering belief and empathy, and ensuring survivors know that they are not alone. It does take an entire community to ensure that survivors do not fall through the crack. One of the biggest barriers survivors face is shame, which is a painful and isolating feeling that tells someone they are flawed and unworthy. Shame doesn't just impact survivors of sexual violence, it can affect anyone struggling with mental health, digital harm, or self-doubt. And too often, shame keeps people silent. Recognizing this, CAPSA has worked really hard to develop a prevention-focused curriculum called Shame-Free Conversations that we want to highlight here tonight for our community and all of you. So thinking about the circles that you are involved in outside of the council meeting or in the community with maybe book clubs or faith groups that you're involved in, neighborhood groups, think about those groups when I share this with you. The curriculum is designed to help adults support youth in navigating difficult topics in a way that fosters openness, trust, and healing. These conversations prevent violence and harm while also reducing feelings of helplessness and fear when harm does occur. A shame-free conversation is rooted in empathy, understanding, and acceptance. It's about choosing words that make people feel safe and heard rather than ashamed or dismissed. To help guide these conversations, a part of our curriculum, we use what we call the SAFE framework, which stands for S, specific, be clear and direct in your communication, and we teach skills with each one of these that adults can use that working with youth. Approachable, so A stands for approachable, think about the space, create a safe and welcoming space. F stands for feelings, acknowledging your own feelings and discomfort, and ways we teach skills on ways to work through those, as well as the youth that you're talking with. Validate their emotions and experiences. And then E stands for empowering, focus on strengths and solutions. Above all, it starts with belief, because when someone shares their experience, believing is the most powerful first step we can take. As a community, we can create safer spaces, break cycles of shame, but programs like Shame-Free Conversations and all of CAPSA's prevention and response services depend on support from our community, funding from businesses and donors and community partners. Allow us to reach more youth, train more leaders, and ensure survivors always have a place to turn. Who in your circle, schools, businesses, youth programs, could benefit from a deeper understanding of how to have these meaningful conversations? We encourage each of you to reach out to us at any time. Our shame-free conversations have been approved by different faith leaders, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that curriculum can be taught to any faith groups, any circles that you're involved in, and we encourage you to reach out and let us come help train adults that serve youth. Thank you for letting us come to highlight Sexual Assault Awareness Month and share a little bit about our work and highlight a prevention program that we have. We appreciate your support of the work that we do in our community. Thank you.
Jill, thank you so much. Stay there for just a second in case anyone has any questions.
Yes.
But I just want to say, I've spent quite a bit of time at CAPSA, and I just thank you for what you guys do. It's for those of you who may not know, CAPSA is the golden standard in the state that other communities look to see if they can recreate, and you guys have done an amazing job. Thank you for everything you do in our community.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Jill?
Just a big thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Okay. Next on our agenda is broadband. We'll turn the time over to Andrew for just a second, and then we have a speaker.
All right, sweet. Can everyone hear me? All right, perfect. All right, so First off, to understand a little bit of background behind this letter, you have to understand what the BEAD program is. So it stands for the Broadband Equity Access and Development Program. It's created by federal law to expand broadband internet access. And the program allocates funds to states for broadband initiatives. The Utah Broadband Center is the Utah recipient of those federal funds. And so they have, once they've received those funds, which for Utah it's about $317 million, they then identify areas within the state where there's a lack of adequate broadband access. And in Cache County, there are over 1,200 specific places where there have been identified underserved locations. And so this grant would essentially help expand access to those underserved areas. Like these next in the process, qualified internet providers such as Comcast apply for the BEAD funding to support specific projects. The letter for support for Comcast specifically before you is going to be part of the application later on. So applicants like Comcast seek letters of support from local governments such as from Cache County. Local support demonstrates community coordination and can be a factor in application scoring. Cache County considers providing non-exclusive letters of support. That would be the next step in this process is if you guys wanted to provide this non-exclusive support, which means that you would support Comcast's candidacy in this grant, but not necessarily just limiting it to Comcast. And then after that, it's left to the Utah Broadband Center and then goes from there. So yeah, that's just some background.
Okay, perfect.
Any
Thank
questions?
you.
With it being federal money, there's no match requirement, or they don't need us to put any money in. So what is it? 25.
I believe so.
All right, we have a guest from Comcast here to give us a presentation.
You stole my presentation.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Chairman Goodlander, thank you, members of the council, county council. Steve Proper, I'm here on behalf of Comcast. I'm helping Comcast out, doing some consulting work on this, because you can imagine there's a lot of communities that we need to reach. But I'm a 30-year plus employee of Comcast, where I oversaw a lot of the government affairs work, both state and local, here in Utah. So helping them out here. Again, wonderful presentation, so I'll not repeat that, other than just emphasize a couple things that, yes, in fact, this is a non-exclusive request. Meaning any other provider that is registered, there was a pre-registration requirement with the broadband office. In advance of this, Comcast was one of many. So if any of those other registered providers, registered through the state for the program, come to you asking for the same level of support, absolutely. That's not a problem at all. Let me talk a little bit about the numbers. Yeah, inside Cache County, it looks like there's over potentially over 1,200 locations. Now that can be an individual location. Well, that is individual locations, and residing those individual locations, some of them reside in what the state has defined as areas that get grouped together. The technology that was used to determine these locations was both at the federal level using satellite imagery and at the state level to sort of scrub some of that. So some of those individual sites using satellite technology may have picked up a facility that may not necessarily need service provided to it. It could be, that's not to dismiss any of them and what their potential need might be, but it could be a storage shed. It could be, just any number of things that looks like a building. So as part of the process, should we or any other provider get the grant, then you work with the state to sort of scrub that list and figure out what the real numbers are. those 1,200 potential ones reside in what the state has identified as Utah project funding areas. What would we be without acronyms, right? UPFAs. And of those 1,200, there's about 18 of these UPFAs that those individual ones may reside in. They don't all reside in it. So what the providers, including Comcast, would do is design service to these, go to the state with a proposal. The state is set up a matrix in terms of grading, in terms of number of points, as was mentioned. Some of the points are meeting with the local communities like we're doing here and getting these letters of support. Other components may include past performance. It may involve commitment to the community. The question that was asked about matching support, yes, there's a minimum level of support that the providers have to provide. Comcast is expecting that we do 50%, that we will do 50% or more, far exceeding the threshold that the state has proposed. And then from that application, as mentioned again, the state will make a determination as to who receives that funding. Once the funding is received, which we think that process should be done by the end of the summer. Some of this has been delayed. We were asking for the support initially. The state had set a deadline of April 9th. That would be this Friday. That's come or will have come and gone. They've extended it another 2 weeks to the 24th. So again, that's what we're here for this evening, is to ask for that support. And let me just stop there, take enough time, and see if there's any questions that I might be able to answer. Yes, sir.
So I live in the unincorporated area of the county. Comcast isn't out in my area, so how do you propose, or how are you going to get to the outer reaches of our county, which I'm suspecting most of these 1,200 people are sitting at?
Was there a presentation included in your packet?
Yeah, they're just only the letter.
Only the letter,
only the
okay.
letter of-
All right.
of support.
Well, let me try first.
Working with the program for 2 years.
Okay.
Wrote the plan for the right area.
Hang on just a sec, Paul, and we'll get you a chance.
You may be one of those dots in the area. And what the program is contemplating is bringing service to all of those unserved, or sometimes referred to as underserved, if the speeds aren't 1 gig symmetrical speeds. So if in fact you are part of the unincorporated county, and I should mention too, I'm sorry, that some of those 1,200 numbers reside inside incorporated communities as well. And we're meeting with those communities. But some of it will lie in the unincorporated portions. And what the program contemplates, and I'd be happy to get your address after here and do a more thorough deep dive to check out your specific location. But what the program contemplates is expanding service, bringing service to you and people in the same situation, having been identified as either unserved or underserved.
Anybody else have questions for Steve? Okay, I just want to say that I had met with Paul Davis at Bragg, and we met with some of the other providers. It was probably almost a year ago, last summer, and to talk about some of the challenges of applying for this grant and what we could do as a county to help support them. And so I'm really happy that you guys have come and asked us for this letter of support, because no one else has. So I just want to make that clear to the council. This is not us giving our approval just to Comcast or some kind of a unique support. We would give this same letter to any company that wanted to pursue the grant from the state government. We would be happy to give that letter of support. So,
Right.
So this is non-exclusive, but we're really hopeful that you guys and somebody can get to some of the more rural areas of our county, because I think it's a really important service to provide.
Yep, that's the desire. And I might add that a question that oftentimes comes up associated with that letter is there is no commitment beyond that support by either a city or a county.
It'll just help you in the process of the grant application.
Get 4 points, if you will. But it also is good for us to be able to have this conversation, let you know what the program's about and what our intentions and plans are.
Perfect. Anybody else?
All right.
Okay, thank
All
you
right,
so much.
thank you.
Paul, I don't know if you have anything specific more you want to add. Yep, tell us your name, and you've got 3 minutes.
Paul Davis, I work with Bear Association of Governments, and this plan was started over 2 years ago. So we got some funding, and we did speed tests all over the county to figure out what people's reception speeds were. It basically includes, you know, the census tracts is how they divided it up by census tract. And so whatever census tract you're in is part of the bid process. And so the obligation from whoever gets the bid is to provide the service to everybody in that census tract. And when he talks about speed, download speeds and upload speeds, it has to be considered served. You have to get 100 megabit down and 20 up, and underserved goes to 25 down and 3 up. And if it's less than 25 down and 3 up, which Amalga and Benson and some of those places cannot get it any way other than T-Mobile, they don't get enough speed. But Trenton and Cornish, they're underserved or unserved spaces because Comcast doesn't go there now. And then going south to Avon and Mount Sterling and most of the unincorporated areas do not have the access that they need. And the preferred solution is fiber to the door. There may be some people that end up with wireless, but the preferred solution is fiber to the door. If anybody wants to read the 85-page document we put together, and then the state put over 200-page document to get the grant approved, more power to you if you're having trouble sleeping.
Paul, do you know of any other companies that are planning to apply for the grant from our local area?
The only other companies that we've talked to, like Wi-Fiber, which is a wireless provider, and you have to be a registered frequency to be able to use it, and that costs a lot of money. Wi-Fiber said they were probably going to try and meet the needs without applying for the grant, because anybody that's dealt with federal grant money, you know that there's like 25% of the cost is administrative workload, filling out forms. But yeah, we're sure with Comcast playing in it and these other folks that we will get somebody who's going to provide. That was our biggest concern, somebody providing the service to everybody in the county. Everybody knows Google and all those folks are in Logan and going up the valley, but the more remote locations are the challenge. And that's why we were very concerned that we had somebody who was going to apply for the money.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Paul? Paul, thank you for your efforts in putting all this together. It's been a process.
Yes, it has.
We appreciate you. Okay, I think we need to have a vote on whether we would support this letter. The letter's in your packet. I don't know if all of you have read it. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion that we support, that we offer this letter of support as written?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded that we offer our letter of support to Comcast for their grant application. Is there any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it was unanimous. Thanks, everyone, and thank you, Steve. Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right. I guess it's close enough to 5:30. We can do our public hearing on ordinance 2025-11. Angie?
Good evening, Angie Zetterquist with Development Services. So this is a request to hold a public hearing for the Tanner and Nicole Godfrey home rezone. It's a request to rezone about 10 and a half acres located at 1695 West, 2200 South in College Ward area, from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural RU2 zone. Approval of the rezone would allow a maximum number of potential lots of 5. However, any sensitive areas would come out of that, so it could be less, but that is the max potential. The location of the request is about 400 feet west of the Logan City boundary. that boundary has a current subdivision in Logan that has development density at 1 unit for every 0.2 acres, so it's very high density over there. A public hearing was held before the Planning Commission on March 6th, and they recommended approval to the County Council on that same date. The vote was approval of 5 in favor, none against, and 1 abstention. So based on the findings of the fact in the staff report, they did recommend the County Council approve it as the subject property is consistent with the purpose of the RU2 zone for residential development in moderately dense patterns. It implements the policies of the county general plan, and it's appropriately served by adequate public services. It's also consistent with Logan City's 2022 annexation policy plan because it is located within the annexation area. And that the most likely density for that area per their annexation policy is about 4 to 6 homes per acre. So again, much higher than the RU2. And then it is consistent with the urban expansion overlay, which it is included in the general plan. So it is meant to be kind of an area where the municipality is expected to expand and have higher density. So with that, the recommendation is for approval. If you have any questions, let me know.
So Logan City is the nearest municipality. What's the distance? Did you say 400 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
It's very close, yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Angie. Okay, it is time for a public hearing on this. Would someone make a motion to move to public hearing?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, before we start our public hearing, I want to just clarify a couple of things. We're really glad that anybody is here to speak, and we want to make it very clear that this is your time to speak, even if you're the applicant. We had some confusion a few weeks back. If you're the applicant, this is your time as well. Once the public hearing is over, we cannot take comments from the public, so this is the time. Would you please step to the microphone when it's your turn, state your name and the city you reside in. Please limit your comments to 2 to 3 minutes, and please keep your comments respectful and relevant to the items of business. And please avoid repeating points that have already been made by previous speakers. We encourage you to build on existing comments. So with that little bit of instruction, if there's anyone here that would wish to speak publicly about this rezone, this is your time.
Hi, I'm Tanner Godfrey, so I'm the applicant on this one. So I'm in College Ward. So it's my wife and I and our 4 kids that live on that property right now. We just submitted for a rezone so that we can build an additional home on that property. We would have applied for the RU5 designation, but we have sensitive lands, so there's about 3 acres that's taken up by a pond and then wetlands around that. And so the only allowable zoning for that was the RU2. So really with the sensitive lands, the maximum additional homes that we could place on that is 2 additional homes. But our plans are to build a single home there for us to live in and to continue to farm and have livestock on that piece there. So it's about 6 acres that's currently farmed there. But happy to take any questions on that, if there's any there.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Godfrey?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, someone.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Okay, so I guess we go next. The next thing on our agenda then would be 9A, the resolution providing round 1 approval to the Northern Bonneville Shoreline Trail Phase. Brandon, you're going to talk about that.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the council. I'm Brandon Bell, the Countywide Planner and Development Services. Just 1 minute while I get set up a little bit. So this is a trails application that's come through. It's been considered by COSAC, and they've provided a recommendation on it. It's about 2 miles in length, and it's east of Smithfield and Hyde Park cities. I'll show you just a few photos of this the area through which the trail is proposed to go. I don't know if you can see my mouse, it's kind of faint there, but it's in the background of this photo. This trail right here that's existing is actually, it's sort of more visible, is actually already existing. This is a photo from a drone, and this is in Hyde Park Canyon. And so the area that we're talking about for this is hard to access, and it's actually in the background there of this photo. This is another shot that's more over, looking up into one of the canyons, I believe, with the property that this would be considered for, I believe, in the foreground. And then also here, this photo as well, a little bit to the south of the knoll or north of the knoll that you saw in the original picture. And the trail area would, I believe, be in the foreground of this one, and then these two as well. So what this would do is it proposes to extend the Bonneville Shoreline Trail north about 2 miles. And the COSAC took a look at it. I'll give you the big details first. The headliners is that they scored it with an 88.7. It's our first trails application out of 100. And it's our first trail application that came through to be submitted. Trail applications are required to be submitted by a government agency, and there is strong support among both the property owners that the trail is proposed for to be located on, as well as surrounding property owners and nearby and surrounding cities, which include Smithfield, Hyde Park, and North Logan. And 2 of those 3 cities have contributed financially, and one is considering doing so and has contributed in terms of staff time and effort and support. This would again help support regional connectivity. It would connect communities. It provides an off-street connection between 2 areas, which would be specifically Hyde Park and Smithfield. And there are no road crossings in the proposed trail segment. However, this segment both ends and close to begins at areas that connect down to roads. So it has good access from the settled areas, the developed areas, for new and existing users. Multiple municipalities would benefit from this. And again, those municipalities that would benefit from it primarily, although probably everyone in the valley to some degree would, but the local municipalities are in favor of this and have expressed their support. And then there's also additional funding for this. What probably should be noted is that the Trails Department has received a grant from the State Division of Outdoor Recreation. As far as county investment related, in comparison to that, this would be essentially an ROI of 22 times, so 2,200%. So if what's being proposed in the proposed resolution is approximately 26,000 to be considered, for round 1 approval, so that they can have confidence and move forward to get, the legal documents in place for this to proceed to round 2. But the amount that the state has already committed to invest, so long as it's constructed by the end of 2026, is 570,000. So that's just about 22 times the investment. So that's a very positive thing going for this particular application. Again, the state does have a requirement that this be constructed by the end of 2026. And I think that I've actually covered all of the high points, and I'm happy to consider any of questions that you might have for me.
So from the open space, you're only asking for 26, or is that acquisition costs, and then there's going to be part from municipalities? Can you break that down for me?
Yes, so the state is funding the cost of construction. That's the 570,000. The 26,000 is for the cost of the easement and purchasing that from the property owners. And I don't know I don't have the details on what the funds that the cities are applying are going to go to. I don't know if Landis is here. He might be able to speak to that. Are you able to provide more detail on that?
I'm Landis. I'm the county's Trails and Active Transportation Coordinator. Thank you. So this is just one phase within a larger project we're trying to do to connect Green Canyon to Smithfield Canyon. It's about 10 miles of trail altogether. Hyde Park really has led the way on this one, and they built 2 miles of trail with our support and some grant writing, but really taking the lead, and we're trying to capitalize on that momentum. We just completed another mile in North Logan, and this will be the next big step for us. And so North Logan and Hyde Park have both contributed big chunks of money to those first 2 phases, and so this will be, we're listening to this phase 3 because that's when we got the partnership, or phase 1, that's when we got the partnership together, but really it's kind of phase 3 in this overall vision. And yeah, so that's where the local jurisdictions have contributed, is to past phases, which then we've been able to go to the state and leverage and show the state that we are serious, we're getting this done, and we know how to get this trail built. So yeah, for this phase, we have fully funded construction costs from the state, a new program from the state, the Outdoor Recreation Initiative, that doesn't require a local match on construction costs, but does require a local match in completing feasibility studies and in doing the land acquisition. And so we got the RAPS funding to do a feasibility study in the last 2 years, and now we just need some funding to do land acquisition, and then the rest of it is covered by the state.
So is just 26 you're asking from the open space bond? That's the amount you're asking for?
That's our engineer's estimate. We haven't done a full appraisal, which we would do in round 2. That's our engineer's estimate. So that's our best guess, but if we get approved, then we'll go and get an official appraisal and come back for the true number.
Awesome.
Are you finished? Okay, Landis, now this is phase 1. What's going on with phase 2, and how much you're going to be asking for phase 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we just submitted a grant a couple weeks ago to do the next phase of this, which will be about 2 more miles in North Logan. This will finish the North Logan segment. That application we put in, we are looking at some local match, but North Logan is willing to do some cash match on that, and then we are going to help with some in-kind match through volunteer work. So that won't be coming from any county resources. North Logan's putting up that local match if we get that grant. And then if we do, we would come back for land acquisition again to COSAC. That's our engineer estimate, I think is around $100 and something $1,000 for that 2 miles. A lot of that, the difference there is where we're looking at right now isn't very developable. Where we're going to be doing some stuff in North Logan, some of it will be going through developable land, so it's just going to come at a higher cost. But compared to the overall project, that's also going to be a more expensive section. So it's still going to be a pretty low price tag for what we're asking from COSAC compared to the construction of trail.
Land acquisition, because it's really just easements, right?
Yes, yeah, just easements.
So land still is owned by the property owner.
Just with a recreation easement on top.
An easement for it, so.
Yep.
Okay, just want to be square on that.
Can we get the overview too? There's 10 miles from Green Canyon to Smithfield. How much is already built?
Yes.
Phase 1 is 2 miles, phase 2 is another 2 miles.
Yes, so.
How does it add up to 10?
It is a puzzle.
Yeah.
But we have 2 miles in Hyde Park built, 1 mile in North Logan built. This will do about 2 more miles from Hyde Park to Smithfield. We'll finish up Hyde Park, and that'll get us to about halfway. And then there's 2 more miles, which we just wrote the grant for, and that'll finish up North Logan. And then there's 3 more miles, a small section that's county unincorporated between North Logan and Hyde Park. And then most of those extra remaining 3 miles are in Smithfield, or outside of Smithfield.
Got it.
This map shows the proposed Phase 1A, which is here at the top. I'll try and zoom in right here in red. And then to the south is the section that was shown in the first photo that you saw, which is, where there's this little U-shaped section is Hyde Park Canyon. And then there's a small piece of Phase 1A that's just right down here to the south of that, that would also be part of this. So probably about a quarter mile or so.
Okay, so you've got this, you get the trail built, you've got to access it. How many access points are there? And you're gonna be like putting all these roads in to get to those trailheads and I mean, I guess the trail is probably the smallest cost. Probably getting access to the trails may be the larger cost. Is that gonna come back on the burden of the county?
Right now, it's not proposed to. There's trailheads essentially either that this is connecting to, one in Hyde Park Canyon and then one in Smithfield Dry Canyon. So there's already existing trailheads.
With parking, with any kind of other services?
Landis is better equipped to ask that one.
Yeah, we do have some primitive trailheads built in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is planning on expanding the services there. We did get funding from the state that included trailhead amenities. So we're going to be improving some trailhead access within Smithfield city limits around Smithfield Dry at the other end. So this segment is not going to cross any roads. It's going to go from a road in Hyde Park to a road in Smithfield. There's not really much else up there, so we're not planning on additional access points within that. That might change someday if development continues to expand. But for now, it'll just be a 2-mile section from trailhead to trailhead. Other parts of the full 10 miles will have more regular trailheads along, but that'll be facilitated by the fact that there's more development in other areas and there'll be more roads. But again, those costs for trailhead amenities are in our applications to the state. So that'll be covered with the construction costs from that.
Is it accurate to say, because this is right at the base of the foothills, that with future development, there wouldn't be an intersection created?
Most
New
likely.
road and the trail, but more or less a road to the trail.
There's a couple places where there's potential developable land that'll be to the east of the trail. So you might have a couple crossings, and there's the occasional forest road that goes up into the canyons that you would cross, but we're not anticipating many more, if any, of those crossings.
For this section, not very many.
For this section, yeah, if anything changes up there, it'll probably be a while.
Yeah.
It's pretty high up and it's
So-
mostly at the base of the foothills.
Yeah.
So there's limited development potential to the east.
Right, yeah, that is what I was asking, thank you.
Yeah, so if you were shuttling cars and you dropped one off in Hyde Park at the trailhead and then one in Smithfield, about how long would you have to hike to get to the other car?
It's just over 2 miles.
Yeah. Which is, it's not super common to have more trailheads in the 2-mile stretch anyway, right?
I mean, in urban trails, it is, but this is kind of a mix where it's on the edge of urban areas. So parts of it where it is more in developments, I think we'll see more trailheads, but especially for places like this 2-mile segment that is still pretty out there. Yeah, it's pretty common.
One way to put it is that this is leveraging the existing trailheads, making them more useful.
Yeah.
I have a question about the open space in general, because this is the first trails application that I think we've seen. So in the other applications that we have, the land is put into a conservation easement that can never be developed by the landowner, and the open spaces bond or whatever funding we have pays for a portion of that, but the landowner also contributes a portion. How does this differ because it's a trail, and is it going to end up in a conservation easement? Or explain that process to me, just how it relates to the other open space acreages that we've done.
Yeah, well, it's a much smaller acreage. It's, if you take the whole trail, it's probably about 2 acres spread across the 2 miles. What I've listed in the resolution is a trail easement or other legal instrument, and that's what, to conserve it as a trail. That would allow for the development and construction of a trail, but clearly limit the ability to develop in that, along that area. As far as how that gets written legally, I've not done that myself. And so that's something that Landis and his team will have to figure out the proper mechanism, how to get the trail easement written.
So nobody, a landowner with a section right in the middle of the trail couldn't say, you know what, I'm gonna develop my part of that trail and block it to everybody else?
Not once the instrument is recorded,
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that, because I didn't understand.
yeah, no, that's a great question.
I'm just reading this letter from the Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, and they said that they're agreeable to an easement provided the easement recognizes seasonal closures to promote winter habitat for deer and elk. How are you going to take care of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. This has been an interesting piece. Fortunately, we have, what I think is a good solution. So there is a place where if we can get the map back up, we have the trail currently splitting. We have two landowners that really want the trail and both have their pros and cons. And we have the funding from the state to build both. And so that's our solution, is to just have, it's just a couple 100 feet where the trail will split, providing options. So if one way is closed, there's the other way. And if there's an issue there, there's the other way. So it's not going to be too much of a burden financially on us, and the state's willing to support us in this. Then it gets us around that issue where even if, it's closed for shooting or for habitat, there'll still be a connection point through there.
That's a good question.
You mentioned that all the landowners were very much in favor, or because it looked to me like there was one that said that was hesitant.
We have
that wants to work with, and they had a list of 9 things that they wanted to specifically look at to make sure it was mitigated somehow.
Yeah, we have signed MOUs with all the landowners. They're all excited for it.
In
They've
the
been
MOU,
working.
there is that, hey, this is not binding.
Yeah, which is where the next step is to get that easement recorded. But yeah, that's how the MOU is required to get funding from the state and stuff. And that's just says that they're willing to work in good faith with us if we do the same with them. And they've been talking to our engineers on this project. And the designs, they've had input on the designs on where the trail's going to go. And that'll continue to be the same until we get it recorded.
Just a procedural question back to an earlier one about the allocation of the land or the assignment of ownership. With the acreage that would be under the easement, is that subtracted from the amount of acreage considered for development? Does that reduce the developable acreage?
That would probably be up to whatever, if it's, I would assume that when it gets developed, it's gonna, if it's not already within the limits of, it actually should be to the east of both cities. So that would be depending on the ordinances of the city in which that property gets developed. Sometimes open space will count towards your developable acreage and sometimes it won't, but I don't have that at hand, and those ordinances could easily change at, between now and whenever someone makes a development proposal. So.
Okay.
And last question on that. So if this is the next phase to the north, but it looks like that lines up similar to Hyde Park City's water line area in the power line area. Is that already an easement?
So Hyde Park is planning on moving their water line. And so we're hoping to use that new easement that they're going to secure for that new water line as the recreation easement going forward up there. That's not all figured out yet. So we're also looking at using the power line easements, the power companies on board. We just need landowners under that easement to support as well. So those probably the last 3 miles we build, because there's still some questions there. The rest of them we're pretty well ready to go on them.
And the last question is, there's an existing road there. It was demonstrated in the picture, and it is along the power line road already, so we have a public easement there. Pros and cons as to why that's not where we're proposing the trail?
On this section, on the power line here. Part of it's to get up to where we want to be. And also part of it's landowners. These landowners are really excited for it. Some of the landowners to the west of this weren't as excited. So we went where we could get it.
So is that where it stops, Dry Canyon?
That's where this will stop for now.
Oh, for now.
Yeah, and there'll be,
Oh,
so
okay, what's next?
eventually the state's vision for the Bonneville Shoreline Trails go all the way to the Idaho border and wrap all the way around our county. That's gonna take a long time. So that's where we're just singling out these 10 miles from Green Canyon to Smithfield Canyon.
Anybody else have questions for Landis or Brandon?
I think maybe just pointing out that Smithfield Canyon also does connect to some other trails too, so it's a multi-access point besides just the trail to the south that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, this is an initial proposal, but does someone want to make a motion about this resolution?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-13.
You'd have to suspend the rules because it's an initial
Okay.
proposal.
Yep, I'll, let me try that again.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and approve resolution 2025-13 and provide round one approval to the Northern Bonneville Shoreline Trail Phase 1A.
Anybody want to second that? Okay, do you guys want to discuss it some more then? Or we're just not ready to move that on? I guess there's no
Well, it's
second.
initial. I think we have some time.
Yeah, we can continue it till next,
I would like to.
till next
look into-
meeting. Perfect. Okay, we'll do that. We'll, and make sure anybody has any questions to get a hold of Landis or Brandon to ask your questions. And we'll bring it out to the next meeting.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 9B, ordinance 2025-11, the Tanner Nicole Godfrey rezone. Okay,
I will suspend the rules and make a motion that we, on ordinance 2025-11, Tanner and Nicole Godfrey rezone, that we accept the county planning and zoning's recommendation and approve.
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that was unanimous. Okay, we are breaking it up here. Okay, the UAC conference in April, is everyone set for that is able to go? Andrew, do you need any information?
Nope, I just wanted to point out that I put something on your guys' iPad, just with the itinerary and everything.
Appreciate that. very
Yes,
much.
thank you. That was very good. Okay, and the emergency management training on May 13th at 3:30. Make sure you keep that on your schedules. Those of you that can be there, that's
I
going to
will
be
be
really,
out of town that day.
okay. I'll write that down, Barbara. Okay, anybody, we have some council member reports. Mark, let's start with you. Do you have?
No meetings since we met, but a library board meeting tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Dave?
I don't have anything to report.
Okay, Barbara?
O&P on Friday, remember that, and then, just bringing up, Bryson, Jaros, Andrew and I are going to be on a call tomorrow about the, governance on the, data privacy policy. And they first called me, and I wanted these others involved because they've done most of the work on it, and I appreciate it. But they're looking to do a white paper, which I didn't know what that was, but Jairus, gave me an explanation. It's a report that presents information, analysis, and a solution to a problem. White papers are often used to educate readers, advocate a position, or promote a product or service. And as you know, that data privacy policy has been mandated to us by the state. And so we're just going to give a report on what our county has done with that.
Okay,
Thank you, and that's all I have.
Keegan?
Yeah, I have a few. So I met with the Visitors Bureau. I'm a non-voting member, but I was part of the process where they scored all the grant requests. So it was just interesting to see the methodology behind that and the thought that goes into that, of how they make those allocations. Met with COSAC. I reported back the council's concerns about promoting and sending letters or postcards to the landowners on those Gateway Vista areas. They expressed interest in maybe hosting a workshop prior to one of our meetings. I invited them to reach out to you. They're putting together a spreadsheet tracker that has a list of all the applicants or all the applications that have been submitted, and then how they were scored, the amount that they were awarded, and how that breaks down on a per acre basis. Maybe just a reminder too, there is ample funding in that in the open spaces bond currently. Met with the Trails Cache. They talked about what was discussed today, and also just a reminder that Bike to Work Week is the third week in May. Last one is the Airport Board. I wasn't actually in attendance in this meeting, so Andrew, I think you were, so if you have anything to add, feel free, but they are considering adding an 8th board member seat to the board. Currently there are 7, and the 8th seat would be for Utah State University. And so from what I understand, in the next meeting, they want to entertain a public comment period on that decision. Anything else you want to? Sorry, I just sprung that on you. Maybe while you're looking that up, the current composition of the airport board is there's our county executive, Logan City mayor, 2 appointed by the Logan City Council, 2 by the county, and then 1 at large that is appointed by the other board members. So this would change the dynamic to 8.
And then they want to put another one so they'd have an even number, huh?
Yeah, which is interesting in a
Yeah.
board.
Well, that'll get a lot done, 4 to 4.
There was discussion on holding an open house to discuss the airport's master plan. But
Yes.
beyond that, I don't think there's anything that I wrote down for the board.
There is an open house this Saturday. They're doing the layout and master plan. That's at 9 a.m. in the leading elevation hangar, I think FL3A. So if anyone's interested in seeing that, they're going to have large printouts of the plans for the public, and they'll be there to answer questions. So,
Okay.
that's all I got.
Thanks, Keegan. Nolan?
I don't have much. Thanks to those council members who came to our last planning and zoning. You can see we have issues. We debated one, and I was I won't say anymore, but I just think we got some issues coming up. There are some rather large subdivisions that are coming, and not every well or water permit provides. I just talked to a person who drilled a 1,100-foot well dry hole.
Wow.
So,
Having water right doesn't
no,
mean there's
kind of
water.
like a fishing license, doesn't guarantee you're gonna catch a fish, so. I really think, and this last planning and zoning really brought something about our county policies that the development office has got to deal with, and so we got to be ready for that, so. Some interesting things, and I hope we can, I have reached out to Casey Snyder about that talk about the wells and water discussion with the county and seeing where we can go, and so talking with some others, but this planning and zoning meeting last time really brought that to head of what we got before us, so some things we need to discuss.
I agree. I think that we're going to have some really big decisions coming before this body to make a decision on, and as much information as we can get, the better. I'm not as familiar with that part of the county. I would like to organize a little field trip or somebody. I'd like to see kind of where the area is. I think that would be really helpful to visualize it and have some ideas. And also, like you said, the county policy on water is going to be a big part of whether or not we want to approve those things. So a lot of things to learn. After our last meeting, the very next day, I actually went down to Provo with Giselle Madrid, and we went and visited the Provo Senior, it's a senior center attached to their recreation center. It was very informative, learned good things, things not so good, I think, but just really, you know, as we look at all of these projects that we're looking at, it was a lot of good information, and I'm happy to share that with some of you if you want to talk about that. And then I'm glad CAPSA was here tonight. They are in the process of the federal government cutting off grants right now. CAPSA is in grave danger of losing over half their funding within the next year and a half. They're on a grant, a 3-year grant cycle, and the one that's going to expire first gets done this September, and the portal to reapply for that is just closed. They can't reapply for it. And then there's 2 more the next year that they so far can't get into reapply for. So I met with them and Val Potter, who was representing Senator Curtis. And I know we talked about this once before with Blake Moore's office. The senators, our national congressional delegation have earmarks that they can ask for. But the federal government is not allowing them to go straight to nonprofits. So they are going to come to us and ask if they work with our grant application with ALMA. If we apply for a grant through Senator Curtis's office and we flow it through to them, it would be a grant for them to help with their funding. So as that comes up, I'll keep everybody informed with how that works. And what else did I do? The Bragg Housing Board, I met with them. And then just the Planning Commission, that was just really informative to be there. There's just so much as we try and approve these applications. I think it's good that we learn what all the information that comes to them. So other than that, that is mostly what I've been doing. Board of Equalization, today we had Barbara and Dave and I met with IHC and Rocky Mountain. Last week it was, or 2 weeks ago, it was a couple of the other, Sunshine Terrace and another health company that.
Health West.
Health West, yeah. So we're getting some of that stuff done, and I'm sure Diana will be bringing us those for approval here pretty quickly.
Madam Chair, I just have a question.
Okay.
As far as the agenda for UAC goes.
Okay.
It says on, and you may not know the answer, but on Friday, May 2nd from 4 to 4:30, it says conference wrap-up and prize drawings. Are we needing to submit anything?
I haven't heard. This isn't like the one where we bring the basket?
No, that's in the,
This is the management comp.
okay, good deal.
Yeah.
So the AOGs have been asked to supply baskets for this one this time around.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Let us know if you need any help. You've been helpful on ours,
You
Sean.
get a bar of soda.
Okay, does anybody else have anything else that they need to talk about? Call that a good meeting. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor? Aye.